How many times have you believed that the secret to success was running faster, working longer hours, and forcing every detail until you finally got what you wanted? We were taught to believe that only those who push themselves to the limit truly achieve something. But what if I told you that this is the biggest lie you've ever believed? What if the path to greater results wasn't about doing more, but about doing less, with calm, with strategy, and with confidence? It may sound contradictory, even provocative, but the truth is, the more you chase, the further it slips away. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes through your fingers. What no one tells us is that there is a silent power in stopping the chase and beginning to attract. When you relax, your mind clears, your energy realigns, and life starts opening doors that once seemed locked. It feels almost magical, but it's not mystical at all. It's about focus, patience, and attitude. Those who master this art discover that true success doesn't come from pressure, but from lightness. And today, you're going to learn exactly that. Get ready, because throughout this journey you'll realize that what you've always believed about chasing may actually be sabotaging your results. And here's the most intriguing part. You'll find out how to change this logic right away, applying deep reflections that can transform not just your daily life, but your entire path. Are you ready to question everything you've ever heard about effort, pressure, and achievement? Then take a deep breath, because what you are about to hear could completely shift your life. Secret 1: The invisible weight of pursuit. Many people believe that life is a race, as if we were in a never-ending marathon where the first to arrive achieves more, loves more, is happier, and more fulfilled. But this rush hides an almost invisible burden, the relentless pursuit of something that slips away the more we try to grab it. It is like chasing a butterfly. The more desperate you become, the further it flies. The obsession with achieving, with getting quick answers, with proving something to others, turns into a kind of silent prison. Have you noticed how, when you push too hard in a situation, everything seems to go wrong? Take a job interview, for example. The more anxious you are to impress, the more your voice trembles, the more your mind falters, and the more the other person senses your insecurity. The weight of pursuit lies in turning legitimate desires into chronic anxiety, draining vital energy and clouding vision. It's like a runner who never looks around, only at the finish line. He may run fast, but he misses the landscapes, fails to learn from detours, and when he finally arrives, he discovers the line was just one among many. This invisible weight is not only psychological, it shows up in the body, in relationships, and even in practical results. Those who chase recognition rarely feel satisfied, because there is always someone ahead to compare themselves to. Those who chase money at any cost, without a strategy, often fall into cycles of frustration. They work harder, but waste energy and end up with less than they could. Think of someone investing in the stock market. If they act out of haste, buying and selling in panic, they usually miss the right timing and face losses. But the one who waits, studies, and observes reaps better rewards with patience. The same happens in love. How many times have we seen people trying to win someone's affection with constant insistence, endless messages, or exaggerated displays? The result is usually distance, because too much pressure pushes people away. That is the side effect of pursuit. Instead of opening doors, it closes them. It's as if the universe responds to anxiety by sending back even more obstacles. Interestingly, this burden only becomes visible when we stop. When we finally create silence and look back, we realize how much we have run without truly moving forward. The truth is that nobody teaches us this at school or at home. We learn to chase, to achieve, to accumulate, but rarely are we taught how to pause. It is like carrying an invisible backpack full of stones. You don't notice how heavy it is until you allow yourself to rest. The paradox is that, many times, what you desire is already closer than you imagine, but too much movement keeps you from seeing it. When life feels stuck, when everything you want slips through your fingers, it might not be because you don't deserve it, but because you are trying too fast, too hard, too soon. That is the weight of pursuit, a force that disguises itself as progress, but in truth holds back real growth. And it is exactly at this point that a powerful shift must happen, discovering what unfolds when, instead of holding on tightly, you learn to let go. Secret 2: The power of letting go. there is a quiet wisdom in letting go. Detachment is not abandonment, as many people think, it is liberation. Imagine holding a balloon full of air with all your strength so it won't fly away. The fear of losing it makes you grip tighter and tighter, but the tension only grows in your hands until, sooner or later, it slips away anyway. Life works in the same way with many things: relationships, opportunities, material possessions. When you insist on holding on to something that no longer has room to grow, you end up trapping yourself as well. Letting go, on the other hand, creates space. It's like cleaning your room and realizing that by clearing out old clothes, suddenly there is space for new ones that fit better with the stage of life you are in now. The same happens in the mind. When you release limiting beliefs, like "I'm not capable" or "this will never work," you create space for more productive and hopeful ideas. It's not about giving up, it's about trusting that something more fitting is waiting on the other side. Here's a practical example. Imagine someone stuck in a relationship that no longer brings joy. Attached to the idea that it must work out at any cost, this person insists, suffers, struggles, but only accumulates emotional exhaustion. When they finally decide to let go, they discover new people, new encounters, new ways of loving that were invisible before. The same happens with professional opportunities. How many times does someone stay trapped in a job that no longer offers growth, afraid of losing the security they already have? And only by letting go do they realize that taking the leap into something new brings more recognition, more learning, and even more prosperity. Letting go is a force that creates movement, while clinging keeps you stuck. Release sets things in motion. Those who learn to let go discover that life is not made of permanent losses, but of intelligent exchanges. And each time you release, you receive something more aligned with who you are now. The most fascinating part is that letting go also works in the unseen. When you insist on a specific outcome, you send out a message of lack, of suffocation. But when you release, you show trust. And trust is magnetic. Have you noticed that the most charismatic people are often those who don't seem to beg for attention? They let go, they trust, and that's why they attract. The same is true for life projects. Of course, you need to act, commit, and do your part, but after that, you must allow the universe to do its work. Letting go is this silent act of faith that transforms anxiety into serenity. And it is in this state of serenity that you begin to notice signs, opportunities, and doors that open naturally. Life starts to align in your favor when you stop fighting against it. Perhaps the secret is not only in letting go, but in learning how to flow, like a river that meets stones and, instead of stopping, simply moves around them and continues its course. Secret 3: Calmness as a hidden strategy. In a world that glorifies speed, cultivating calm has almost become an act of rebellion. People rush, override their own rhythm, believing that speed equals efficiency, but they forget that the fastest does not always reach the best place. Calmness, in this sense, is a hidden strategy, often underestimated. Have you noticed how, in moments of serenity, answers appear with clarity? It is as if slowing down allows the mind to breathe and organize its thoughts. Imagine someone about to make an important business decision. If they act in a hurry, they may sign unfavorable contracts, trust the wrong people, and later regret it. But if they pause, breathe, and observe calmly, hidden details rise to the surface and the choice becomes wiser. Calm is not the absence of action, but the fertile ground where precise actions can flourish. Calmness is also magnetic. In a room full of frightened people, it is the calm person who inspires trust. Think of an airplane in turbulence. Everyone looks at the crew's expression. If they remain serene, passengers breathe easier. If they show fear, panic spreads. Life works the same way. Your calmness communicates security, attracts allies, and opens doors. And this tranquility doesn't appear by chance, it can be cultivated. Simple practices like meditation, mindful breathing, or even walks without your phone can train the brain to handle pressure without losing balance. Imagine a professional facing a crisis at work. While everyone else panics, he keeps his voice steady, listens more than he speaks, and thinks twice before acting. The result? He is seen as a reference, naturally attracting leadership and opportunities. Calmness, therefore, is an invisible weapon that sets apart those who merely react from those who respond with wisdom. There is yet another dimension. Calmness expands time. When you act without rushing, you notice nuances, see shortcuts, and make decisions that reduce mistakes and frustrations. It is like cooking. In a rush, you burn the food. With calm, you turn simple ingredients into a memorable meal. The same happens in life. Hurry may bring quick results, but they are often shallow and temporary. Calmness, however, builds solid foundations. It does not deny effort, but channels it with clarity. That is why philosophers and spiritual leaders have always spoken about the power of silence and serenity. Calm is like a still lake. Its surface reflects the landscape with precision, but if you throw too many stones, the water stirs and everything becomes unclear. And here comes the turning point. If calmness is this powerful, imagine what happens when the focused mind, that silent engine within us, aligns with it to create new realities. Secret 4: The power of a focused mind. The mind is like a garden. If you plant nothing, weeds will take over. Focus is the conscious choice of the seeds you want to cultivate, and that is what determines what will bloom in your life. Those who live scattered, allowing random thoughts to occupy the fertile ground of the mind, end up harvesting anxiety, insecurity, and stagnation. But those who direct their attention, even in small daily doses, build consistent results. Imagine someone who decides to learn a language. If they study 15 minutes a day with discipline and focus, in 1 year they will have progressed far more than someone who studies irregularly, driven only by bursts of motivation. A focused mind turns desires into projects, and projects into reality. It is the thread that stitches dreams together, uniting intention and action into the same fabric. Without focus, time is lost. With focus, every moment multiplies. What's interesting is that the mind doesn't clearly distinguish between what is real and what is intensely imagined. That is why when you focus on fear and failure, your body responds with anxiety and paralysis. But when you focus on achievement, you create space for new connections and opportunities. It is like an athlete visualizing the perfect race before stepping onto the track. By training the mind, the body is prepared to win. This principle can be applied to any area of life. Want to prosper financially? Instead of fixating on the fear of debt, focus on studying investments, creating extra income streams, and organizing your budget. Want to attract healthy relationships? Instead of mentally replaying stories of rejection, focus on building your self-esteem and placing yourself in environments that encourage positive connections. A focused mind doesn't eliminate obstacles, but it changes how you face them, and that changes everything. Focus is also a filter. In a world saturated with information, those who do not learn to filter live exhausted. Think about how we spend hours on social media, jumping from one piece of news to another, from one opinion to another, without realizing how much this dispersion drains our energy. Now compare that with someone who chooses to use the same time to learn something specific, reading 10 pages of a transformative book, writing personal reflections, practicing a skill. The accumulated effect of such focus is enormous. It is like sunlight, dispersed, it warms, but concentrated through a lens, it can start a fire. And when your mind learns to concentrate like this, everything gains power. This is when you discover that it is not enough to simply focus on something. You also need to trust time, to understand that every seed requires its own cycle to bloom. That is where patience becomes the inseparable ally of focus. Secret 5: Trust in time. Few things test human patience as much as waiting. We live in a society where everything is immediate. Messages arrive in seconds, movies are one click away, online purchases arrive in 2 days. At this pace, we forget that the greatest processes in life require time. It is like planting a tree. You can water it every day, fertilize the soil, and care for it with love, but nothing will make it grow in a week. Trying to rush nature only creates frustration. And yet, that is exactly what many people do with their own dreams. They want quick results, instant recognition, immediate change. But hurry steals depth. Time, on the other hand, builds roots. It matures us, strengthens us, and prepares us to carry the weight of what we ask for. Trusting time means accepting that everything has its season, and that there is no use trying to harvest in winter what only blooms in spring. Trust in time also protects us from invisible traps. Have you noticed how some people who achieve success too quickly often lose it just as fast? That happens because they didn't have time to build a solid foundation. Time may sometimes feel cruel, but in truth, it is wise. It refuses shortcuts that could cause collapse later on. Think of someone who dreams of becoming an entrepreneur. If the business grows too soon, without a strong base, success becomes a burden and eventually implodes. But if growth happens gradually, each stage teaches something, each mistake strengthens, each victory prepares for the next. It's like training for a marathon. No one runs 42 kilometers all at once. Progressive training builds endurance. Time is the invisible coach, shaping body, mind, and spirit for the right moment. Those who rush may abandon the race. Those who trust the process discover that the finish line arrives naturally. The hardest part, however, is trusting when nothing seems to be happening. It is in that silent space, between what you desire and what has not yet arrived, that anxiety tries to take control. But it is in that very interval that time is working most deeply. Remember, roots grow before the tree appears above the surface. Many times, you don't see results because life is building in the unseen, preparing the ground so that everything will be sustainable when it comes. Trusting time means resisting the temptation to give up too soon. It is understanding that life's clock does not follow human anxiety, but the wisdom of the process. And when you surrender to this rhythm, you discover peace along the way. This peace does not come alone, though. It deepens when you learn to listen to yourself, in the silence that reveals answers hidden by the noise of hurry. Secret 6: Silence as an inner teacher. We live in an era where the noise never stops. Notifications keep flashing, opinions keep shouting, comparisons appear with every scroll. In this whirlwind, silence has come to be mistaken for emptiness, when in fact it is where clarity lives. Silence is a patient teacher, one that does not need words to instruct. Imagine standing before a calm lake. The water reflects the landscape like a mirror. Now, throw in a stone, the surface stirs, and for a few minutes everything turns blurry. The mind works the same way. If it is always restless, you cannot see anything clearly. But in silence, thoughts settle, and what once seemed confusing begins to take shape. Silence, then, is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of your own inner voice, the one that can only be heard when the outer world finally grows quiet. It is curious how silence can be frightening. Many people avoid being alone or turning off constant stimuli because, deep down, they fear what they might hear inside themselves. It is like opening a forgotten drawer. You don't know what you will find, but you know something is waiting to be faced. Yet it is exactly in that confrontation that growth happens. A simple example: when you walk in silence, without headphones, without distractions, you begin to notice things that would otherwise pass unnoticed: the sound of birds, the breeze on your face, your own thoughts arranging themselves. Have you ever tried writing after 10 minutes of absolute silence? Words flow as if they had been waiting to be released. Great spiritual leaders and thinkers always sought silence before making important decisions. Jesus, Buddha, Socrates, all understood that only when the mind becomes still can we hear the wisdom that already lives within us. Practicing silence is like tuning an instrument that has fallen out of key. You need to stop playing in order to hear the true note. By embracing silence, you rediscover what truly matters. Worries that seemed urgent shrink in size, and desires that are genuine shine brighter. It is like switching off the storm of information to recognize which star is really guiding your journey. And it doesn't require a spiritual retreat or days of isolation. It can start with just a few minutes each day, waking up without checking your phone, meditating before bed, taking a deep breath before answering someone. This silence is a form of self-care, a reminder that you don't need external validation to feel whole. Silence reveals, purifies, and guides. But when it joins with gratitude, something even more powerful emerges. You not only hear yourself more clearly, but you also learn to value every detail of life that is already pulsing within and around you. Secret 7: Gratitude as a key of transformation. Gratitude is not just about saying thank you, it is about shifting perspective. It is choosing to see abundance instead of lack, to focus on what is present rather than what is missing. Imagine two people walking down the same street. One complains about the heat, the noise, the traffic, the other notices the flowers blooming, the child's laughter, the opportunity of simply being alive. The situation is the same, but the experience is completely different. Gratitude works like a lens that clarifies life. When you are grateful, even for small things, your mind moves away from scarcity and begins to recognize opportunities. It is like adjusting a camera. When the focus changes, what was blurry suddenly becomes clear. Gratitude, then, is not a passive attitude, but an active strategy that reorganizes how you experience reality. The power of gratitude goes beyond emotions. It impacts the body and even practical results. Studies show that grateful people sleep better, suffer less from anxiety, and maintain healthier relationships. This is because gratitude reduces stress and nurtures a sense of trust in life. Imagine someone who loses their job. The natural reaction is despair, but a grateful perspective highlights other aspects: the experience gained, the free time to explore new possibilities, the chance to redirect their path. This mindset does not deny pain, but transforms it into learning. Gratitude does not erase challenges, but it equips you to face them with strength. It's like a shield. Problems continue to exist, but they no longer destroy you in the same way. And as your energy shifts, opportunities that once seemed invisible begin to appear. Practicing gratitude is simpler than it seems. You don't need grand gestures, only consistency. Writing down 3 things you are grateful for every day, saying thank you for small daily gestures, or simply pausing to acknowledge something good before sleep, all of these are powerful exercises. Over time, the brain adapts, creating new neural pathways that naturally lean toward optimism. Gratitude is like watering the roots of your inner garden. Little by little, joy and resilience grow. And the most surprising part is that gratitude is contagious. When you live with a grateful heart, your attitude inspires others, your relationships deepen, and the environment around you becomes lighter. Gratitude transforms not only the one who feels it, but also everyone who comes close. And when combined with silence, patience, and focus, gratitude becomes the final piece of a puzzle that reveals a fuller and more meaningful life. Secret 8: Conscious Visualization. The mind has a curious power. It does not clearly distinguish between what is lived and what is intensely imagined. That is why conscious visualization is one of the most powerful tools that exist. When someone closes their eyes and sees themselves reaching a goal, feeling the emotion of victory, the body begins to respond as if it were already happening. This is the same technique used by high-performance athletes. Before a race, they visualize every step, every movement, every detail of the finish line. And it's not just inspiration. Studies show that the brain activates the same areas when visualizing and when executing. In other words, by imagining yourself achieving something, you are already rehearsing for that achievement. But the difference lies in intensity. It is not enough to dream vaguely. You must create vivid images, sense smells, hear sounds, and imagine the scene as if it were a movie already playing inside you. The more real it feels in your mind, the closer it is to manifesting in your life. This practice, however, should not be confused with escapism. Visualization is not about escaping reality, it is about preparing it. Think of someone who dreams of giving a speech. If they only imagine the success, but never visualize the process, the rehearsals, the breathing, the pauses in the speech, the scene remains incomplete. But if they visualize the details, feel the weight of the microphone in their hand, hear the sound of the audience, sense their heart racing, and learn to breathe deeply, they are training not only the mind but also the body for the big day. The same applies to someone who wishes to change their financial life. It is not enough to picture themselves as wealthy, they must also visualize conscious decisions, controlled spending, and wise investments. Visualization is building a bridge between the present and the future, like an architect who sees the finished house before laying the first brick. And perhaps the most beautiful secret of conscious visualization is that it creates a kind of inner compass. When you see yourself living the future you desire, your brain unconsciously begins to look for signs and opportunities that bring you closer to that scene. It is as if you put a filter on reality. Suddenly, what once went unnoticed becomes an invitation. You visualize a healthy future and start noticing more gyms, workout videos, and people talking about positive habits. You visualize having your own business and begin to overhear conversations that spark ideas, connections, and inspiration. It's the well-known idea that you find what you look for, but amplified by the power of directed imagination. Yet there is an essential point: visualization is about preparation, not control. Life will still bring unexpected turns, and this is where the next step becomes necessary: learning to relax and simply receive what comes your way. Secret 9: The art of relaxing and receiving. Most people were taught early on that they must chase after everything: chase after a job, chase after opportunities, chase after love. And ironically, this constant running often only leads to exhaustion. Relaxing, in this sense, is not passivity, it is intelligence. It is recognizing that you have already done your part and allowing the fruits to come to you. Think of a farmer: he plows the land, plants the seeds, waters, and cares for the soil. But after that, he must wait. If he tried to pull the plant to make it grow faster, he would only destroy it. Life works the same way: when you relax, you give space for the natural process to unfold. Receiving, in turn, is an act of trust. It is believing that you are worthy of what you asked for and that you do not need to beg for it. Those who master this art discover that, often, what they were desperately chasing was already on its way, it just needed the heart to be open to accept it. But here is a detail almost no one talks about: receiving requires vulnerability. It may sound contradictory, but many people struggle to accept when life offers something good. How many times has someone received a compliment and answered, "Oh, it's nothing"? How many times has an opportunity appeared, but the person turned it down because they felt unprepared? Relaxing and receiving is about breaking this cycle. It means allowing the blessings already knocking at your door to enter without resistance. It's like standing with your hands full of useless things, unable to hold the gift that arrives. That is the key: as long as you insist on carrying old fears, beliefs, or obligations, you have no space for the new. To relax is to empty yourself. To receive is to open yourself. And when that happens, life responds generously, almost as if saying, "I was waiting for you to let go so I could finally deliver." The art of relaxing and receiving does not mean abandoning effort. On the contrary, it means that after taking action, you must release control. It's like sending a letter through the mail: you write it, place it in the envelope, pay the postage, and hand it over to the carrier. From that point on, it makes no sense to chase after him every day asking if the letter was delivered. This act of trust is what creates space for results. And here lies a powerful subtlety: when you relax, your energy shifts, your posture toward the world becomes lighter, and that alone attracts different people and situations. Those who radiate calm invite the universe to work in their favor. Those who radiate desperation push it away. Relaxing, therefore, is a strategic act, almost invisible, but with concrete effects. And this lightness becomes even more powerful when you realize that you don't need inhuman pressure to achieve, because true success happens when there is less weight and more flow. Secret 10: Less pressure, more success. There is a dangerous illusion that society repeats over and over, that in order to succeed, you must always be under pressure. The message sounds convincing: only those who suffer win, no pain, no gain. The harder you push, the faster the results. But the reality is that too much pressure does not create success, it creates exhaustion. It's like a pot on high heat without a release valve: sooner or later, it explodes. Many people live exactly like this, suffocated by urgency, by internal and external demands, by the belief that stopping means failing. The irony is that science shows the opposite: people who work with less stress, who maintain balance and intentional breaks, actually perform better, with greater creativity and consistency. Less pressure is not laziness, it is emotional intelligence. It is understanding that productivity doesn't come from rushing, but from mental clarity and the energy preserved for the moments that truly matter. Take the example of high-performance athletes. They don't train at their limit all the time. They alternate effort with rest, intensity with recovery. It is this rhythm that allows for steady progress without injuries. The same applies to any area of life. Those who live under constant pressure may achieve small short-term results, but they eventually collapse in the long run, whether in the body, the mind, or relationships. On the other hand, those who know how to ease the pressure create space for creativity to flourish. How many brilliant ideas have you had in the shower, during a walk, or in a moment of pause? This happens because the brain, when freed from tension, connects information more openly and creatively. Less pressure is what allows your inner gears to run smoothly. And this lighter space is what separates a life of suffocating effort from a journey of consistent and enjoyable achievements. Less pressure also means more authenticity. When you stop demanding perfection from yourself, you begin to act more truthfully. This attracts people, opportunities, and experiences that align with who you truly are, not with the mask imposed by constant demands. The paradox is that when you relax, results show up faster and more naturally. It's like releasing the handbrake. The car was ready to move, but the excess control kept it stuck. This logic, although counterintuitive, is liberating. Success does not come from living on the edge, but from aligning effort with serenity, discipline with rest, action with trust. Once you understand this, you begin to experience the lightness of a life that is productive and joyful at the same time. And it is precisely this shift, achieving more with less weight, that sets the stage for the conclusion of our entire journey so far. And now that you've gone through each reflection, the inevitable question is, what will you do with all of this? Will you continue trapped in the cycle of hurry, pressure, and anxiety, or will you allow yourself to experience calmness as an ally of success? The choice is yours. The world is already full of people running without direction, but only a few pause, breathe, and understand that real power lies in flowing. Which group do you want to belong to from now on? Pause for a moment and think, what do you need to let go of today to make space for the new? Which part of your life is asking for more serenity and less pressure? Share your answer here in the comments, because when you write it down, you commit to change. Don't underestimate the power of a simple decision. Many times, it's the very thing that opens the door to a completely different life. If this content resonated with you in any way, subscribe to the channel right now, turn on notifications, and keep following the next videos. Here, every reflection is an invitation to live with more lightness, more alignment, and above all, more awareness. Success is already on its way, but it only arrives for those who prepare to receive it. So, let's walk this transformation together.